Something I think about often is, what are stories for? Are they here to take us away from our troubles and give us rest, or are they training us for the world that we live in and the days that we inevitably have to face? There's one channel that I've really been enjoying lately that touched on this, First Timers, and he did a reading of The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and offered up JRR Tolkien's view on death, as shown by Éomer's speech in the Battle of the Pelennor. In the movie, it's given by King Theoden, but take a look at what he said.
Death. Death take us all. Then, without taking counsel or waiting for the approach of the men of the city, he spurred headlong back to the front of the great host and blew a horn and cried aloud for the onset. Over the field rang his clear voice, calling, "Death, ride, ride to ruin and the world's ending."
There is a very real temptation that First Timers identifies here to view Éomer's words as a hero hitting the self-destruct button when all is lost. But the thing about moments like this is that they offer a point of comparison between characters. There are figures in great stories that refuse to let go of life, and they're afraid of death. So much so that they defile themselves just to keep their heart beating. It's almost sad, like you pity it. Voldemort, Palpatine, Sauron, Frieza. There's this other road that can be taken of sacrifice and meeting death, accepting it, reminding us in subtle ways that there are worse things than dying young or before your time. There are worse things than meeting your fate. And this is not a political point, but just for a current reference, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, he said something along these lines during Charlie Kirk's memorial the other week. He said, "It is better to die a young man in this world than to sell your soul for an easy life with no purpose, no risk, no love, and no truth." Great fiction, like the kind that First Timers is reading here, like Return of the King, ones that are, in a sense, true, are ones that they teach us something. They teach us something that is real. It's not really up for debate. That they build on the world as it is, not as we wish it was. One more clip from First Timers, just for reference.
Because he could just give up at that moment. And I think there's a lot of courage in that. When we lose someone, I think we often feel like a similar shock, like we're just deflated, like an arrow has kind of pierced us and we can't really go on. The world just seems drained of meaning and of color. And for some reason, some way, we just keep going forward. We just keep moving into the ruins, I think, of what was, and carrying love and grief together, mingled in these two things. I think Tolkien, who was someone who really knew war and personal loss, seemed to understand that grief isn't really something we ever overcome. I think it's something we just ride through.
Grief is something that we just ride through, something that we don't conquer. Yeah. In Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, he says this: "The process of growing older is not necessarily allied to growing wickeder, though the two do often happen together. Children are meant to grow up, and not to become Peter Pans, not to lose innocence and wonder, but to proceed on the appointed journey, that journey upon which it is certainly not better to travel hopefully than to arrive, though we must travel hopefully if we are to arrive. But it is one of the lessons of fairy stories, if we can speak of lessons of things that do not lecture, that on callow, lumpish, and selfish youth, peril, sorrow, and the shadow of death can bestow dignity and even sometimes wisdom. Things that do not lecture is so important there, showing, not telling, the audience a way in which they can live and order their lives, and as an extension of that, a way they can die. We're paying attention. We watch these movies and we are taking notes, and they come up at the most unexpected times. When Luke throws down his lightsaber in front of Palpatine, refusing to kill his father and seize power, we remember that. When Boromir runs to save Merry and Pippin after betraying the trust of Frodo and the Fellowship, and dies then with honor, seeking forgiveness from Aragorn for his weakness, we remember that. You show, you don't tell. As an example, my daughter and I watch Titanic a lot, and in the end, Captain Smith locks himself in the captain's quarters to go down with the ship, in what I think is one of the most chilling moments I've ever seen on screen. That glass creaking and cracking under the weight of the water is terrifying. And my kid asked me, why did he do that? And I have answered several times when we've watched this movie. It's a mix of shame and honor code. He's duty bound to go down with the ship, but he's also ashamed of how he failed his passengers, so he locks himself away and does the deed. But she has blasted me for this and said a couple of times over the years, it just makes me so mad. He chose not to get out there and help people. I started her on that movie pretty early, and she still talks about it at age 14. Because kids are paying attention. Show, don't tell. My dad, who died almost 1 year ago now, told me most of my life about the importance of giving and being quick to give. But I don't remember anything that he said. I only remember that one Christmas before his death, his last Christmas, he noticed my watch wasn't ticking. And without me saying a word, gave me the watch on his wrist that he'd worn pretty much my whole life. And there's a lot of slop out there. There's a lot of vacuous content. But then there are stories that we think of as myth, and myths are true. Joseph Campbell, in The Hero with 1,000 Faces, he says that myth is the secret opening through which the inexhaustible energies of the cosmos pour into the human cultural manifestation. So it's like secrets being revealed to us. Myths are clues. You only have so much time in the day, so spend it on stories that matter. Thank you to first-timers for that read of Return of the King. Go check out his channel, and if you have time, you should come back and you should read On Fairy Stories by Tolkien. It can be found in some of his collections, and you should subscribe to Geeky Stoics for more on this kind of stuff. We'll see you soon.